Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. I'm Joe Sellepack, your host this morning. I'm the Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. Faith in Action is one of my favorite programs. They do amazing work within the community, and they help people who otherwise couldn't live independently in their own homes to be able to live independently. They inspire it with dignity, with compassion, and it's because of the volunteers that we have at the Council of Churches through Faith in Action volunteers that we have every year a Lives of Commitment, where we celebrate these lives of people who are volunteering and helping our community to be a better place. So why is it so important that we celebrate and we support the work of Faith in Action volunteers?
Well, I think it's important because these volunteers do such a big amount of work in the community that people don't even realize. And most of them are so humble that they won't even talk about it or brag about it or anything. So I think it's important to recognize it because it's such an important part that keeps our community together, any kind of volunteering. There are things that would never be done if it weren't for volunteers.
Right. And Lives of Commitment is a big part of that too, isn't it?
I certainly think that. I know myself, I have always volunteered at some level for the Council of Churches, but it was about 12 years ago that I became involved with Faith in Action. And I came on the signature committee to co-chair and really learned a lot about the program. And one of the things that is always so emotional and inspiring for me is the breakfast, because the stories we hear from and about these volunteers are just amazing. And as Sue said, they're giving a quality of life to people often who don't have family here, friends, or the resources to take care of themselves. And one of the nicest parts for me is I've always been fortunate enough to work for a business that sponsors a table. And so we bring people who haven't been before. And it's a little early, it's 7:30 in the morning, and sometimes you have to do a little convincing to get people there. But I have not ever had a time that the person I brought for the first time didn't say to me as they were walking out, "This was absolutely wonderful. It's the most wonderful way to start my day, and please invite me again."
And my guests today are Sue Spencer, she's the Director of Faith in Action Volunteers, and Penny Stringfield, who is a long-standing, as you said, member of the Signature Committee for Lives of Commitment, and a huge supporter of the Council of Churches in the community. So thank you both for being on Encounter today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So we started off by talking a little bit about the program and why it's important for people to volunteer. How important are volunteers to Faith in Action volunteers?
Well, volunteers are our backbone. Without the volunteers, we'd have nothing. And we have some staff, but even in my offices, I have volunteers.
Yeah, right.
So we would not be able to do half of what we do without the volunteers in the community.
And how many hours of volunteer work do you think you do annually?
Annually, at least between 6,000 and 7,000 hours.
That's now people hear that and they're going 6,000 to 7,000 hours. That's not a lot. But if you think about an 8-hour day, and you multiply that over a course of a year, and then you multiply it again by a certain number, you're coming up with a lot of volunteers that are spending a lot of time doing that work.
That's true. I mean, would they average about 2 hours every time they take somebody to the doctor's or to the grocery store? It's about 2 hours, and I have volunteers that do that 2 or 3 times a week. So
wow.
So they're giving up maybe 6 hours of their time.
And that's one of the biggest things that you work with in your program
Is the transportation.
Transportation.
Yes, that's huge. I mean, unfortunately, people get to a point where they can no longer drive, or they don't have family that's available to take them. And our mission is to help them remain independent. And if we're going to do that, they have to stay healthy and they have to have food. So that's our biggest seller as far as services. And I think our average last year was was 32,000 miles.
Wow.
Driven by our volunteers.
Wow. That's
Either
impressive.
shopping or errands or doctor's appointments. So.
Now, Penny, 12 years of celebrating lives of commitment. This is probably your 13th year now, right? So, in that time, you've probably seen a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that have spoken. What are some of the memorable ones that you kind of remember?
Oh, wow. Well, I've lived here my whole life, so it's been a pleasure for me to see everyday people that might not get honored in the world be honored at this breakfast. One very special case for me is a man named Lou Perman.
Yeah.
And Lou belongs to the church that I belong to. He and his wife have been long-time supporters of the Council of Churches, most especially Chow. They've worked in the warehouse. They're big advocates at our own church. And Lou was nominated to be, I think it was our community honoree. And sadly,
it was a council honoree.
Council honoree. He passed away before the breakfast.
Just a month.
Right.
Yeah, before the breakfast.
And he and his wife are very shy, modest people, don't want any attention. So it took a lot of arm twisting to get her to come to the breakfast. And it was such an event for her. She and Lou never had children of their own, but their nephews came. We had 2 tables of people from our church. And again, this is a quiet, modest couple who would not, in today's world, probably be honored the way. And we had our previous pastor and an attorney, Dave Goulden from our church, do videos to honor Lou. It was just amazing. I think one other piece I will never forget is one of our keynote speakers was Brian Sikora, who was the CEO of WSKG at the time. And he made us all think about what a wonderful community we live in. It was, kind of at that time when most of what you were reading in the paper was, this industry's left and we've lost this and we've lost that. And he talked about how he and his wife had triplets who had some very serious health issues, and how the faith community kind of bound together and put these kids on prayer chains and helped set up meals and help when the kids came home. And he made me stop and think about what a great place it is. And honestly, I don't want to take up your whole half hour because I love the breakfast. Again, it'll be my 13th year to attend, and I could probably spend 3 hours telling you stories about things that have moved me, but I would say those are the top 2.
And Sue, I mean, you've been with Faith in Action for 4 years now.
Yes.
So you have some memories too, and are there ones that you would want to share?
Well, I started at the council about 2.5, 3 weeks before Lives of Commitment. So I had no idea what it was about, and being new, I'm still learning all these things. And I went to that first breakfast. I'll never forget listening to a couple who had taken care of a woman, would take her to the doctor's appointments, but then they became very close with her, and they became her healthcare proxy, and she had no family. And I just remember being so inspired, and I think it was at that point that I really realized what I was there for,
Right.
because learning a new job and everything. So I think that first Lives of Commitment that I went to was a huge shift for me in my focus at work, really.
And a couple of years ago, and I'll just share, I had one of the honorees on to talk about why she was receiving the award, and we went in depth into her volunteer efforts, and she was one of the volunteers with Faith in Action. And as I was talking with her about, well, what does this mean to you? She said to me, I retired a few years ago. Faith in Action gives me a reason to get up in the morning, to get out of bed. I want to thank this woman that she had been in relationship with for saving my life. Mm-hmm. And it was impressive to me to realize that people not only need help, but the volunteers themselves need help too. And this is one of the reasons that this is a very profound program in that sense, because we're helping people get connections to each other that otherwise wouldn't be there. And that's one of the reasons I'm such a big advocate for Faith in Action volunteers myself. I am the executive director, so I'm supposed to say things like this, but my family, when we've gone to help elderly people clean their yards, and my children were involved in that many years ago, all the way up through ramps that we've built and other opportunities that we've had to minister to people. I can say that even from my own kids' perspective, it has an impact. It has a real impact on their life, and in the way that they're viewing even their vocations of what they're going to be doing with their life for the rest of from now on. Mm-hmm. So I can't speak highly enough about the program. I think it's an amazing program. So if our listeners wanted to figure out how to become a Faith in Action volunteer, what would they do?
Well, they could call our office, and we would bring them to an orientation and talk about all the different opportunities. We have quite a few different things they could do. Most of ours are drivers, but some people don't want to drive, so they could visit, a shut-in or someone who's a little bit isolated or lonely. They could just do grocery shopping for someone and deliver their groceries to them. Even work in our offices. If they like to talk on the phone and they are happy to work on a computer, we can always use help in the office. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of different opportunities, and we can explain that to them at an orientation, and they can decide what they want to do and how often they want to do it. It's very flexible. We work around their schedule, and then of course we have to do a background check, and then once they're in, we put them to work.
And it always helps if they can use a computer and get on Ride Scheduler, right?
That's right, yes. Now that we do some online scheduling, we've tried to make it very easy for the volunteers. Instead of playing phone tag, if they get on the computer, they can pick the people they want to take and the rides they want to take. Mm. So it's very convenient for us, and a lot of them like that because they can map out their whole month and get it on their calendar.
And again, this lives, my guests today are Penny Stringfield with the Lives of Commitment Signature Committee, and Sue Spencer, who's the director of Faith in Action Volunteers. So we are talking about the event, Lives of Commitment. Mm-hmm. So when is the event, and how can people access it if they would like to?
Well, the event is a week from today, which seems impossible because we'll have a planning meeting for next year, probably 3 weeks after the event. So it always seems like, it just can't possibly be here already.
This is on May 2nd.
May 2nd,
yeah.
And
it's a Thursday. So we're taping this on a Thursday. We're airing it on a Sunday.
That's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's on May 2nd, and it is at the Doubletree, and it's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, 7:30. The buffet opens at 7:30.
And then the program begins around 8
o'clock.
And will tickets still be available?
Well, tables are filling up. I mean, if we got If someone called early next week, early on Monday, we might be able to find a seat for them. But it's getting pretty full.
Yeah, it's getting full.
Which is wonderful to see.
Yeah.
I was going to just add one little thing about the volunteers. I sometimes think, we obviously retired people are a great resource, but Joe and I both spoke at Binghamton University a few weeks ago at a community engagement program, and I talked both this time and when I did it last year to some of that demographic about volunteering, specifically for Faith in Action. I know at our church we had a couple of seniors who were no longer able to leave their homes. They were still in their homes, but they weren't able to get to church. And we had a couple families who had moved here and the kids had no grandparents here. And it became a wonderful generational experience where, again, these were not people who were transporting, but the mom and the kids would visit monthly, and you would walk into these two women's homes and they had children's artwork all over the refrigerator.
Right.
And then I also think again about college age students who were looking to do some giving back. I know there are some requirements with some of the sororities and fraternities, and a lot of these people have grandchildren that don't live here. And there's nothing they love more than to have a young, energetic person knock on their door. So I hope if anybody knows a young, energetic person or is one that would really like, to look how they could give back, this is just a great opportunity.
Sure. I mean, we have many, many people who call in. They just want someone to visit with them occasionally. And now that spring is here, and there'll be people asking for a little bit of yard work maybe, and those types of things. So energetic young people are needed and very welcome.
And so people can access this through www.broomecouncil.net. It's Broome with an E for anyone that has a doubt, has a question as to how to spell that. Broome with an E, council.net. And they can also go to, they can call us on the phone. Our number is 724-9130, and they can get through to the receptionist if they would like to get tickets for the Lives of Commitment breakfast, or if they would like to volunteer, they can on the website. That's an easy way to do it, right?
Yeah, the forms are all on there.
So the forms that they need to fill out, they can go to the website. They can fill it out there. And the volunteer coordinator would get them hooked up with Sue and with her program. So this is a great way for people to be able to access it, especially young people. We're always looking for even for people who would like to do friendly visits. I remember a couple of years ago we had a young person, actually Paula Johnson, her son Adam was a Faith in Action volunteer, and you need to talk to Paula about that. Yeah, talk to her about that sometime. And Adam was an aspiring engineer. At the, he went through high school, and he had a gentleman that he did friendly visits with, and the gentleman he did friendly visits with, I think, was retired from IBM.
Could be.
So it was a really neat kind of connection that he made with this person, and these are interest. It's not just about driving or getting things done in that kind of a way. It's really developing these relationships, right?
Oh yeah, and it's interesting sometimes some of the when a volunteer takes someone on a transport and they find out the relationship. I've had people meet up with someone who they go back and they figure out that they're actually distant cousins, and or they find out they have interests in common, or they know people, or they worked at similar places, especially things like IBM and Lockheed Martin and all those. And they have connections with that, and the relationships are amazing, and I think that's what drives the volunteers the most, is they find some very interesting people to speak with, and they get attached to them, and they want to help, and that's part of it. It's a win-win situation for everybody.
I know that your Penny, your congregation's had some experience with Ramp It Up. So Ramp It Up is one of the programs that falls under Faith in Action. It's a project of Faith in Action volunteers. So, and every year we try to honor at least somebody from Ramp It Up. This year I don't know that we do.
Yeah.
But not every, but not every year, but a lot of years we do. So what's been your experience with Ramp It Up?
Oh, Ramp It Up is a wonderful experience if you have a youth group that's looking to really do something hands-on. Oftentimes I was our youth director for many years, and sometimes you take kids to volunteer at something and people give them busy work. There really isn't something for them to do. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding than to have your first experience as a volunteer where you can really see outcomes and results. And our first ramp was a young man who had been brutally attacked while he was doing mission work out of the country. And he was left in a wheelchair. And he and his mom lived in Vestal. So we had a group of about 12, 13 kids, and they were between the ages of 14 and 17. And this young man was in his early 20s. So it was very relatable to the kids. And again, as Sue said, the whole, gee, I know this because of this, or I know you.
Yep.
They realized that this young man had been an incredible artist and had painted a mural across the wall at Binghamton High School that all of them passed almost every day on their way to the cafeteria.
That's great.
Anyway, we built the ramp within 3 days, and he was a little shy and reluctant to come out. I also think it was embarrassing to be his age and have people so close in age out doing all this physical work. By the second day, he was out, and we had a couple of girls that were a little on the flirty side, which didn't mind. And all the people from our church came and went over the 2 or 3 days and bought food, so they became involved. And when we watched him come down that ramp the first time, again, if you're looking for an experience for kids to do volunteer work and really see the fruits of their labor, and you talk about continuing a relationship, we went back a couple times. We found out that he loved Mexican food, so we went over and made lunch for he and his mom, and I have since run into her. She's done some community things herself because it's spurred her to give back. So again, another one of those things that don't get me going because I could go on and on and on. We went on to do 3 more ramp projects after that.
And so what else is new at Faith in Action Volunteers?
Well, the online scheduling, that's our new thing, and we're really excited about that because that's great. We were able to receive a new van this year, so we can always use volunteers to help with the van to drive people to the grocery store. And we are also able to bring back our Chop and Chat program, which we're very excited about that too.
And what does that do?
And Chop and Chat, well, two things are great problems for seniors. One is isolation, excuse me, social isolation, and the other is food insecurity. So Chop and Chat is a program where we go to the senior centers and to the senior living facilities with a fresh, healthy recipe, lots of ingredients, fresh vegetables for the ingredients, and we have those that want to participate sit down and they chop and prepare their recipe, and while they're doing that, they should be chatting. If you ever want to hear chatting, the Vestal Senior Center on the Mondays we go, I did a video the other day, and that's all you hear is just
so nice.
Knives hitting cutting boards and talk. So, and it's just a time for the seniors to get together, to socialize, and to think about what they're eating, and maybe try to eat a little healthier.
And if people would like to see it in action, or if they're curious about it, is there a schedule? Do we have a schedule?
We do have a schedule at different places, and I can't remember it off my head, but they're typically Mondays and Tuesdays. Right now we're going to 7 different locations.
And if they would like to know that, they can call you, right?
Right, they can give me a call.
724-9130. And what's your extension number?
My extension is 304.
304.
Yeah.
So we can, they can get in touch with you and be able to learn a little bit more about Chop and Chat maybe. And I know that you also do the Shoppers program, which is an interesting program.
Right, the Shoppers program, we contract through Office for Aging. And that's a little bit different than our regular shop from a list because you will be shopping for the same person or the same couple on a regular basis. And again, that's a great way to form these little relationships. It's nice, you stop in and you get the list and the payment. You might chat for a few minutes, you know, and then you do the shopping and bring it back. And it's very, very much needed for a lot of those seniors that it's very difficult for them to do a shopping trip. Either they have health issues or they don't have the stamina to do it. And a lot of relationships form from that, but really, really a good opportunity. If you're not comfortable with taking somebody in your car, that's a perfect job to do.
Now, Lives of Commitment again, which is the signature, it is the signature event that supports Faith in Action
That's right.
volunteers.
Yes.
It's happening on May 2nd at the Doubletree at 7:30 in the morning. And there are a few tickets left, just a few. So we want to make people aware of that. And if they would really like to come, they can call 724-9130 and they can just talk to the receptionist, right?
They can, or they can talk directly to Paula at extension 318.
At 318, extension 318, and Paula can get them a seat, let them know a little bit about the program. And we're really excited about this year. I mean, we have some amazing volunteers who are,
We do.
the So-and-So's is one of my favorite ones.
Yes.
And we only have 37 seconds left. So for all of you that are here, I want you to think about how you can volunteer and make our community a better place. Have a great Sunday.